In a world of 350 billion movie podcasts, two chumps have decided that now is the time for cult movies to engage in combat. Disagreements will be had, blood may be spilled, and voiceover artists most definitely will not be paid. This is Cult Film Face-Off.
Howdy, and welcome back to Cult Film Face-Off, episode 45. Settling up and hog-tying the hell out of a couple of movies with me, as always, is my Kimo-sabe, Big Cheap Chat Rivas.
Hello.
And I'll be Nick Low Hanging Balls Leonard. In this episode, we are taking a look at two 80s creature features. First up is Alligator from 1980 versus Razorback from 1984. So let's jump straight in with Alligator, directed by Lewis Teague. A baby alligator is flushed down the toilet and grows into an enormous monster that feasts on the corpses of laboratory animals who have undergone heinous hormone experiments. That's right, you've guessed it. The beastie soon gets bored of feeding on pumped-up pooches, escapes the sewers, and goes on a city rampaging, chomping all that get in his path. Alligator.
It lives 50 feet beneath the streets. It's 36 feet long. It weighs over 2,000 pounds. It's killed 5 people already. And it's about to break out. Alligator.
Right, so firstly, thanks so much to Gerard Washington for suggesting this pairing. Big up yourself! So, Alligator, Chet, have you seen it?
I recorded this movie on TV when I was a child, the Movie Drone version. The Movie Drone introduction is on YouTube. But yeah, for some reason I never got around to watching it. So yeah, I've wanted to see it for about 20 years. What about you?
Well, I watched it, I recorded it and watched it when it was on Movie Drone.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the first time that I saw it. I didn't really have much of a recollection. I remembered clearly about Ramon getting flushed down the toilet towards the beginning of the film, and I kind of remembered fragmented the wedding sequence when it all kicks off, but I didn't really remember much else rather than that, so it was more or less like watching it for the first time. Yeah. So what did you think?
I think this is kind of like the perfect B movie. It's so no nonsense. I mean, what I knew about this film ahead of time was that a baby alligator is flushed down the toilet. And that's 3 minutes and 10 seconds. I think that's happened. That's the story is set up straight away. None of the bullshit. I thought it was going to actually sort of spin the wheels a little bit, but it actually gets started and then the credits roll and it's go.
I think the first sequence is really good as well. When you're actually back in like Missouri and you're seeing these guys doing like a demonstration with a crocodile, and it just kicks off with a brilliant grizzly leg mauling in front of a crowd of like families and children. Now, why would that would encourage you to go and buy a baby alligator?
But it's also, I mean, all of this is crammed into 3 minutes. I love that sort of the economy of that. I thought it was really terrific. And the film, what surprised me the most about it is that it's a really good detective movie. Actually, as a cop movie, it's actually really, really effective. But although it's kind of like it's a hail of cliches, it never treats them like they're new, and I think that's where a lot of the humour comes from, because it kind of takes the things that you expect. So, for example, Robert Forster's character, for about 10 minutes of screen time, he's a crank, and everyone thinks he's insane, and they don't believe that this is real. But then they kind of get shot at that quite quickly, and it moves through the gears quite fast. I just thought it was, I mean, there's hard to fault, really, to be honest. I thought it was a fantastically entertaining B movie.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. This came out with a slew of other When Nature Goes Nasty films, which preceded George. You had Grizzly, you had Piranha, you had Orca. I mean, all those films are massively indebted to the best film of all time, which is George. Right. But Alligator is certainly one of the best ones, if not the best one, out of all of those kind of spin-offs. It's got really good characters. It's got really good acting across the board. It's really good. Really good. I mean, the film is certainly anchored by Robert Forster, who is great. He's really likeable. He's perfectly jaded, and he's just got that great deadpan delivery, which is really spot on. I also really liked Michael Gazzo, who plays his superior, who was Frank Pentaglia in Godfather 2.
Oh, yeah, that's right,
he's
yeah.
great, and I love the way he's just constantly like barking orders at and the uniformed police officers in there. Some really funny moments. Yeah, it does owe a huge debt to Jaws. I mean, scene after scene are lifted, from the hostile press conference, which we had obviously the hostile press conference with Chief Brody at Amityville Island, the hostile press conference here in Chicago. But yeah, it is a great B movie. Yeah. I mean, it really is a great B movie. I really like the flush scene. So once we've seen the poor Ramon get flushed down the crap, I just love the fact that the way that the picture spins to signify the poor bugger's journey around the U-bend with these brilliantly over-the-top strings. I'm just like, brilliant, I know exactly where we are here. We're in genre film territory. Yeah. Also, I think which is done really well, not done very well in a lot of these other B movies, is the actual look of the crocodile.
It does look really great.
The crocodile looks great, and they've done a mix of having an animatronic crocodile, alligator, and using an actually, with a mini set, using an actual alligator as well, and they look really good.
Yeah, really good. It kind of subverts expectations at every turn. I was really wrong-footed by it quite a few times, and there are some genuine surprises in it. I suppose one criticism you could say is that Henry Silva turns up as like this big game hunter, and he is sidelined completely, and he barely. I mean, it's a glorified cameo, but I suppose in its own way that's kind of a subverted cliche as well, I guess, because he turns up and then basically gets munched. I mean, that's something that happens in movies a lot now, but he was never a marquee name, but he was, so people would have gone to that movie expecting him to be the badass that kills the alligator, and then he turns up, has one sort of suave scene, and then
10 minutes, then he gets chopped.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's quite interesting is that the gator's victims are all people who really more or less deserve to get chomped. I mean, there's a few people that don't. The small child in the swimming pool doesn't deserve to get chomped. Right. But everybody else is kind of like, it's fair game. Yeah, I mean, it's quite. I like the fact as well is that you've got this side story with this very unethical animal testing facility going on with Gutchell, who's in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, Mr. Cheswick.
Mr. Cheswick, who's really good in there as well. He's a brutally unethical pet shop owner. He's really good as well.
I mean, I do think this film kind of toes that line that's very, very hard, where it's not quite a comedy and it isn't quite a thriller, but it's funny and it's exciting, but it's not serious. It's not too serious and it's not too goofy. It's kind of a completely legit. It's got that B-movie tone that so many films try and have, where you take it seriously, but you can laugh at it at the same time. Yeah. You're invested, but you can just. I mean, I loved it. As soon as it cut to the big wedding, I was like, okay, brilliant. This is what everybody wants to happen. I mean, I just thought it was. I couldn't really fault it. I don't think it's just really, really efficient. Incredibly efficient.
I agree. I just think the comedy's spot on.
Yeah.
Some of it's really brazen. Other times it's way more subtle. I love the scene where they're basically it's the most the town where this is happening in Chicago. They're like the most enterprising town in the States. I love the fact that when these alligator attacks start happening, is everybody wants to make some coinage out of Ramon. You've got people selling rubber toys. Yeah. You've got fluffy animals. They missed a trick not punning out a load of Lacoste t-shirt. The wedding scene is absolutely fantastic. I mean, one flip of Ramon's tail sends members of the wedding party into orbit. It's just done fantastically well. Completely over the top, completely contrived, but completely awesome.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that you want people to get away, and then when it's the old shithead in the car, you're like, come on, punch him.
And the thing is, it's so satisfying as well. I mean, he has a really terrible laboured death.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's good. It's just one of those,
and it's just cut really well as well. The cutting is done so well in that scene.
Yeah, it's just one of those. It's terrific. I mean, I still haven't seen Piranha. But because
Piranha's great.
Written by John Snell.
Piranha's good fun.
Yeah,
Piranha's good times. I've seen Orca a very long time ago, and I just remembered it took itself really seriously and wasn't particularly good.
I've never heard good things about that movie at all.
No. Fun fact: the animatronic Ramon was donated to the Florida Gators team as a mascot and would make appearances before games and during half time.
No way.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the fact that Max Cherry in Jackie Brown, Tarantino said it's the grown-up version of Robert Forster's character in this.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and you can totally see it.
Well, he's the same character.
Exactly. A bit more world-weary, obviously, and a bit older, but yeah, it's...
And this film's got a wicked tagline. It's 36 feet long, weighs 2,000 pounds, lives 50 feet below the city. Nobody knows it down there except the people it eats. Fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for things that I could sort of criticise, but
it was just a great ride. It's a brilliant film.
Yeah, even the foreshadowing got me at the beginning when they start talking about the methane. I was like, and then at the end, it's like, of course,
yeah,
it completely got me. Completely suckered me. I mean, everything about the film works.
Yeah, I mean, even the thumbed-in emotional attachment backstory to the girl who turns up. She's the little girl at the beginning.
That was annoying.
Ramon in the it's fine.
Yeah. And as I said, I think in the opening stretch, at least, it's a really decent detective movie. And there's it just out of nowhere surprises. I love the scene where the guy walks in and says he's going to blow the police station up. Really cool little sequence. Yeah, it's John Sayles working his magic.
And doing a hell of a lot better writing than he did when the same year with Battle Beyond the Stars.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I really get the feeling that he loves genre movies like this, and I don't buy. Yeah, that didn't feel like his heart was in it. But then that could have been mangled by the director. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. There's also as well. There's the first reveal shot. What I think is so important in all of these creature features is when you get a first glimpse of the animal. And there's a brilliant reveal shot of Ramon when he's in the sewers. And Robert Foster and the guy that he's just been teamed up with, they're having a conversation. The light just catches his face. You just get a glimpse of this humongous fucking Chevy on this gator, which just gives you an idea of the enormity of the beastie. Yeah, I mean, it's a great B movie. I would thoroughly recommend this to anybody listening who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, me too. Stands up brilliantly well. I don't think it hasn't been remastered or anything like that, but you can still get it on DVD.
It did spawn a sequel, Alligator 2.
I heard that's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I've heard it's terrible as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, look, let's crack on with our second film of the episode, which is Razorback from 1984. A small child is killed by a wild boar in the Australian outback. His grandfather and hunter, Jack Cullen, is hell-bent on tracking down and killing the beast. The local inhabitants don't believe the animal exists, so it is up to a hunter, a farmer, and an American tourist to find and kill the pig. Razorback.
Out here is where it will find you. She was the last one to see it.
She's missing. It was an accident.
Now, he must face it
Thought you might know what happened to her.
alone. God has created it, and hell has given it a name. Now, there's a new breed of terror. Razorback.
Right, Razorback. Have you seen it?
No, I only became aware of it, I think, when that Ozploitation documentary came out, and I think Tarantino was talking about
Have you seen the Ozploitation documentary?
Yeah, I didn't like it very much,
okay.
But I'll go into that another time. But yeah, that's when I first became aware of it, and I saw clips of it in that documentary. I thought, wow, that looks really cool. So yeah, I hadn't seen it. What about you? Seen it?
Yeah, I had seen it. This was a big box VHS special from Astrovision in Gloucester. An ex-girlfriend of mine had a fantastic taste in B movies, and she had this. This is one of her favourites, and she had it on a big box VHS. So I saw it in all of its grainy glory many years ago. I didn't really remember a lot about it, apart from it being atmospheric. So Russell Mulcahy, director of Razorback, his background is in music videos. Loads of videos for Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, Billy Idol, Elton John. Certainly you can see this director has a really strong visual flair. There's some stuff. I mean, it's shot really well. I mean, the outback looks majestic at times and it looks nightmarish at times. I mean, there is more blue ice than you can poke a stick at in this film.
You love that shit.
the opening scene where Cullen's grandson is snatched by the wild boar is done really well, really atmospheric, harsh, and then you open up into this court scene, which is very kind of reminiscent of the case that was huge at in Australia about did a dingo ate my baby, and then you're setting up this great dynamic of it's a revenge story with this grizzled old hunter against this wild boar. Unfortunately, it doesn't go down that line, and that's to the detriment of the film itself, I think. What did you think?
I liked it. I mean, I think it is really a pleasure to look at. It is striking looking. Russell Malco is so inventive with light and just compositions. It looks really striking. I think that's to the detriment of it as a horror movie, because it should be a film like this should have suspense in it, and there's no suspense in it whatsoever. It does look really, really quite amazing. He is an amazing stylist, but
you've only got one sequence which I think genuinely has suspense, which is the sequence where Razorback attacks the American the TV reporter. When Razorback is basically the two brothers are there. They leave and she's attacked by Razorback. That is the only sequence which actually has some tension in it.
I don't really even remember. I mean, I watched this morning. That doesn't stick out to me. I mean, the only scene I remember that I'd say comes close to having suspense in it is when what's his name, the old guy, the Jack Cullen. That's right. Yeah. When he's in that sort of metal shack. And it's sort of tearing it apart. I mean, but
that's a problem with that. I mean, a huge problem with me in this film is it didn't from that moment onwards when Jack Cullen was killed, and also I think the fact is that his kill was just completely not. It was a non-event. It was a non-event, and then you've got this, the husband of the TV reporter who is killed, who has got zero charisma, zero screen presence, and it ends up him hunting down Razorback. Where I was wanting, a Captain Ahab type scenario with Jack Cullen, one-on-one with the Razorback, and he just gets fucking, he gets taken out.
I mean, the American guy who's the husband of the reporter, you don't really get any kind of sense of his desire for answers. No. Like he goes there, he wanders around the outback like a stooge for a little while, and then he finds his wife's wedding ring, and he's like, "Yeah, see, I'm going." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, this is we're supposed to be sort of invested in what you're supposed to be the hero, ostensibly."
I wasn't invested in his loss. He didn't seem particularly upset that his wife.
I think that's because I mean, she dies and then he's there. I think that's. I didn't really mind that. It's just that he's suddenly the lead character, and he's not really given any. The film's more interested in the weirdos in the background. I'm not surprised that Australians didn't really like this movie when it came out, because every Australian character, I mean, they're basically Mad Max villains. These fucking unbelievable psychopaths.
I mean, every negative Australian stereotype is in there, from the horribly backward, the horribly inbred backward locals to the local old bushman, and it's just this stereotype central. I think, this going back to the lead who takes over the second half of the film, Gregory Harrison just hasn't got the acting chops, hasn't got the charisma to lead this hunt. The other thing that lets this film down is actually Razorback itself. Razorback itself looks like an inflated sausage roll that's rolled down behind your couch. It looks rubbish.
You have to. I mean, it's also they hide it for so. I mean, I think I can't think of a monster movie where you see less of the monster. I think there's hiding it to try and sort of build a bit of expectation and to sort of add to the horror, and then there's basically not showing it at all. I reckon it's probably 15 seconds that you see it.
There is one. There's one sequence where you actually see the full scale of the boar, but it's hilarious because you can see obviously it's on wheels and they just push it out of the scene, and it literally just trundles out of shot on its wheels. That unintentionally made me laugh. But the animal looks like it's made out of dog fur and sticky back plastic. It doesn't look great. I mean, I suppose this is the thing. This is a film that was made for under $300 million. The budget is really mean.
Under $300 million, I'd hope so. Is it less than $300 million? I hope it did.
Less than $3 million. Less than $3 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, hats off to creating atmosphere and the visual aspects of the movie. The scenes that look especially good. There is like a nightmare sequence which is done really well. That's a standout. And the Outback at times just looks absolutely majestic. I mean, it is really well shot.
I think when this film works, which is I think in the opening half hour most, it reminded me of The Hunger, where it's kind of not present. It's set basically in this exotic other world, and the plot is enjoyable and sort of taut enough to be enjoyed and to sort of enjoy it on a very, very powerful aesthetic level. But as soon as it starts grinding its gears in the middle, and there's a lot of conversations, and there's a lot of sort of wheel spinning, and there's not a lot of action, and you're not invested in the actual desire to. The other thing I love about this is that nobody can find this animal, nobody can capture it, and at the end, the boar basically impales itself and then electrocutes itself and then sleepwalks into like a fan and gets chopped up. I was like, I mean, and then that
but it's still like a really cool music video.
I mean, but it's also that is chaos, visual chaos. At the end, the camera's shaking all over
the place. Also the sounds as well. It's like you're kind of just like it's a blessed release when it ends.
Yeah, it is just overpowering.
Yeah. There's too much time is spent in the middle section with Dicko and Benny Baker brothers, and
also their motives were just like, they're just fucking savages. They're just I'm just like they're going to use that at every turn. When you're trying to say why the fuck are they behaving like this?
Because that's just because they're backward and they're deviants.
That's the answer. Yeah, exactly.
They were weak. Yeah, Bill Kerr is great. And it's just such. I don't know why you would decide as a director to to spend that time building up, having that opening sequence. He's got legitimate fucking horrific beef with this creature because it killed his grandson.
Yeah,
and then he just. I don't understand why that was decision.
You'd think it would be so that he could team up the two. You'd be interested enough in the husband's journey and his, put them together and they'll catch it together. But
because then you've got an interesting dynamic of this old hunting bushman versus this modern American tourist, and you're going to have all of that stuff that they can riff off, and they don't even share. They share less than two scenes together.
Maybe I was talking about how Alligator subverts cliches and wrong foots you, and I think it's very, very clever. Maybe they're trying to do the same thing here, but they take drama out of it. Where's the drama? There is no drama in this film. I think that's the other thing. There's no drama, there's no suspense. It does look so arresting that for the opening half hour, there is actually plot for about a half hour long stretch, and you're just kind of basking in how good. I mean, it really is a good looking film. I mean, the fact that Russell Mulcahy had the time to shoot some of the gorgeous sequences in this film on that budget is impressive in itself. This is his first film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hell of a debut visually. I mean, but if you want a really suspenseful horror film, which is what you should want, it isn't that. But it is a cool looking film. I mean, some of the sequences,
it looks great, but this is a real classic case of style in buckets over substance. And some of the best lines are coming from Bill Kerr as well. 2 states of being. Dangerous or dead. Yeah, right. I mean, it's great. He talks about his whole background. He's a guy who knows about the Razorbacks. He's hunted the Razorbacks diligently for years, and then he just fucking carks it out of nowhere. And then you're just left with this vapid American to take the reins, and he just not up to task.
I didn't think he was that bad. I think he was a little bland, but
he was. If there's any more blander, he would have just dissipated into the fucking air.
I think
he just had no. I don't remember what his character's name was.
No, but I think that's because of the script isn't really interested in him either. I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Mulcahy deviated from the script quite a lot to serve his own desire for amazing looking visuals. Because I started to lose interest, and all that was there was the visuals. It's a strange. Just the way it's plotted is very, very odd.
Yeah, I mean the things that I've noted here, it's all stylistic flashes. It's like there's a nice Jaws head nod with the reverse zoom, and then cuts to a close up of his eyes, followed by a great freeze frame of him yelling. That's done really nicely. Also, I know films ask for a certain suspension of disbelief, but there is a scene in this film which is so outrageously not rooted in reality. Right? There's a scene with an Australian drinking Fosters.
I didn't notice what they were drinking.
No Australian has ever drunk a can of Fosters.
Yeah, I mean, the Killer Pig, fine. That's taking the piss. I mean, I like this. I don't hate this film at all. I kind of enjoyed it. I just felt that Do
you know, this reminded me of another film that we've covered on the podcast before, which is kind of a similar kind of setup, with having a very, very strong first half and then rapidly going downhill in the second half, and that's Pumpkinhead.
I was thinking about Pumpkinhead actually, and stylistically there's kind of similarities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great to watch 2 films in a night. load of beers. Oh, you know, it's a great pairing.
Razorback and Pumpkinhead, yeah. No, I didn't. I thought this film was basically okay. No, do I? I don't know. There's too much that I thought... It seemed like a massive missed opportunity.
Yeah, it really does peter out. And it's a little bit flabby in the middle. There's a bit too much time spent with those brothers. But visually it's great. But there's not much else there beneath the surface.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike it, but yeah.
I didn't mention this, but I mean, we talked about the use of dry ice in Dog Soldier. I mean, fucking hell, this trumps it.
Yeah.
I mean,
there is dry ice everywhere. I mean, that's another classic movie, a music video trope.
Music video trope, yeah, exactly. So, when it comes down to choosing a film between Alligator and Razorback, which way are you going?
Like I said, I've said a couple of times, I did not loathe or even dislike Razorback, and there are people who I'd probably recommend it to who I think would really get a kick out of it. But I would say it's no contest. Alligator is a film I'd recommend to almost everybody who's looking for a really, really straight on the nose, down the line B movie. Really, really good.
Yeah, Alligator is very solid B movie fodder, and there really isn't. There's no weakness. There's no negatives for Alligator. It's hugely entertaining. It's just a great. There's not many of those about. Just a really solid B movie with really good character actors, decent monster, decent storyline, tight 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah,
Razorback, Razorback isn't great.
Yeah, it goes off the rails completely.
Yeah. So Alligator snaps it up. Snaps up victory.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So just before we finish off, we've had we had quite a lot of correspondence about this pairing. Ryan Hickey, Alligator is one of my favourite movies, and Razorback is just badass.
Razorback is a pretty badass film. It's just a shame it should be better. But yeah, I agree with the appraisal of Alligator all day.
Yeah. Matthew Clifton, so want Alligator to come out on Blu-ray.
Likewise.
Greg Loughton, Razorback, directed by Russell Mulcahy, has the most distinct visual style since Mulcahy's directing background was in music videos with his quick cutting and stark lighting. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. It is distinctive, you know. I mean, not until Wolf Creek came along many years later have you had the Outback shot so visceral. So in such a visceral way, but
it's also completely. I mean, it is set in another universe completely, and I think that's why I likened it to The Hunger. You're in another world, and I think that's not to be discounted.
No, that's the same as Pumpkinhead, though. Yeah. You're in this kind of a different reality.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody who got in contact. If you want to get in touch with any future films that are coming up, head to www.cultfilmfaceoff.com. Head to the blog and let us know what you think.
All of the episodes we put up are going to be at least 2 weeks before we'll put up what we're recording, when we're recording it, and if you have anything to add, we'll read your stuff out on the episode.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter. That's it for now. See you in a couple of weeks.
Take it easy.
Ciao! Bless.
Cult Film Face-Off.
Alligator is a film based on a modern myth. Modern myths are a very popular cult species. There are films about flying saucers, about the Loch Ness Monster, Bermuda Triangle, the Vanishing Hitchhiker, all that sort of thing. As yet, there hasn't been a film about the poodle in the microwave. But tonight, John Sayles and Louis Teague offer us the oft-told story of the pet baby alligator flushed down the toilet, which took up residence in the sewer system and grew to be 100 feet long. Sayles is the writer, Teague the director. They also collaborated on The Lady in Red, a women's gangster film produced by Julie Corman. Lady in Red is a somewhat classier affair, but Alligator is extremely entertaining. Sayles is, of course, a director of some repute, who writes scripts like Alligator so as to be able to direct the films he wants to do. The Return of the Sea Caucus 7, Mate 1, Brother from Another Planet, 8 Men Out, and City of Hope. Alligator is reminiscent of the giant ant film Them and Larry Cohen's It's Alive. There's also the odd reference to The Third Man. It's bloodthirsty but very moral. The monster is generally politically correct in its choice of victims. Obviously, Alligator owes a substantial debt to Jaws. But the Alligator itself, created by the Stansbury Alligator Company and operated by Kevin Blackton and Tom Gherkin, is the superior beast. Look out for Dean Jagger, a character actor who specialized in benign old fellas like the General in White Christmas, in the role of the evil capitalist.